amazing new Azorius commander from the Secret Lair Street Fighter. So I actually really liked Chun-Li Countless Kicks, and well, I actually still do. I think it's a fun commander, just like I said in that review video. But now that I've played a bunch with her, I found some problems for her. However, it's not the normal reasons you would normally think. Some of you might say that she's too slow, or she's just Azorius, she's lacking combos and things like that. I don't think that's the problem. You see, it's the meta. And it's the cards that people play inside the meta. Lots of people are playing ad nauseam Storm inside the meta. And because of that, a lot of people are playing Rule of Law effects inside the meta to counter the ad nauseam. However, that really affects Chun-Li Countless Kicks as well. Now we can combo through it, but the game plan when you're playing, like, you really feel the hurt from a Rule of Law effect when you're playing that commander. Lots of people are playing Underworld Breach inside the meta of today. And because of that, people play Rest in Peace, as they should. Great card against Breach and Graveyard strategies. Just so happens that it's very good versus Chun-Li as well. Draenei Magistrate, super strong card. Popular pretty much everywhere whenever you're playing white and you want to have some form of hate bear control kind of style. Happens to be extremely good versus Chun-Li, even if you have Chun-Li in play, because Chun-Li is casting from exile here. Super strong card, super popular card, you're always playing it no matter what if you're playing blue, Mystic Remora. And believe it or not, Chun-Li is feeding that fish heavily, guys. If there's there have been so many games where I've played this Countless Kicks girl and there's a fish in play and I sit there and go, what am I gonna do? Whatever I do, I'm gonna feed the fish. So in the end, when you're sitting down, you just end up in pods where people have all the answers against you already at an auto-cluing basis. I once built a CC Weatherlight Captain deck filled with a lot of creatures, something that normally doesn't work, but it did work in that specific time scenario because people had been cutting off board wipes so heavily in the meta. It was so rare to run into a board wipe that you could actually get away with mass creatures. And in that scenario, in that meta, cEDH felt really strong because you went into games in pods versus opponents that didn't really have the right proper tools to deal with you, such as Dam, Toxic Deluge, Cycryph, etc. But if I go into a game with Chun-Li Countless Kicks, I'm always ending up with opponents that have cards that are good against her because everyone have cards, multiple versions of cards inside their deck that is good against her. And that's her problem. I didn't see that when I made a card review for her and when I thought about how she could be functional, because on paper she plays out really well. You ramp stuff, you cast a bunch of instants, you fill your graveyard, and then you cast your commander for about 5 or 4, you put 2 cards under her, and then you just sit there and accumulate value throughout the game and build up more momentum. Sure, it is kind of slow and that is a problem for her. Her current combo demands that you're exiling Mystical Tutor under her, and then whenever she attacks you can cast Mystical Tutor, finding Nexus of Fate, putting that on top of your library, and then take an extra turn infinitely, going infinite turns. And this isn't super fast. You need something of 8 mana minimum to win, and that is a tricky problem, but also you need time to build that up. But the time it required never really felt like an issue. I was sitting there and eventually getting there. It's actually kind of easy to find Mystical Tutor. There are various kind of tutors for this spell. For example, we have things like Merchant Scroll or Intuition. It doesn't matter where they're putting the Mystical Tutor with the Intuition. If they put it into the graveyard, well, it's where we want to have it in the end. So you just cast your commander and you can exile a Mystical Tutor directly from the grave. But there are more variations to this, so getting there isn't that hard. It is basically a 1-card tutor with multiple tutors for it. The problems often began early in the game, where I had to mulligan quite aggressively with this deck to find some fast mana rocks to get some ramp speed so I could be relevant in the early stage of the game, while others on either mana dorks had a more inconsistent successful opening hand, but they were always able to get something going, regardless of what opening hand they found. Or I run into a Storm Ad Nauseam deck that just needed rituals, tutors and Adnos to burst off immediately, while this demands a little bit more. You need like mana rocks, you need some interaction, you need something that is kind of drawing cards for you, so you need a multiple of various things for your opening hand to work. Having instants with card draw, having interaction in terms of counterspell were never a tricky part, the mana rocks were a tricky part. I've talked a lot before about how counterspells can be a little bit tricky when you want to sit and control the entire board state. Because when you're sitting and trying to interact with, let's say, an Ad Nauseam, you're spending one card to deal with one card. But what about that other Ad Nauseam from the next player? And then you're starting to really lose hand size eventually. Stacks is just so much better at doing this because it's interacting with all Ad Nauseams more or less around the table. So the game begins, we're getting a little bit behind because we have to mulligan quite aggressively towards some mana rocks to have some early speed in the game, and then there's some very common cards that everybody plays, Draenei Magistrates, Rule of Law, Mystic Remoras, just makes our game problematic, make us even more behind because we can't really play around them while other decks in the format can. And then the problem just escalates because we need our commander in play doing its card draw thing for all of our counterspells to properly work, so we can sit and control the board state while we're digging forward towards our own win. But it all falls apart at the start. We never really get to the stage where we can sit and have a normal card draw because we're behind to begin with in the game. So that's my take so far. This was a short video to just explain and showcase my experience about Chun-Li. Sometimes you have to play it in practice to really see the details problems. But this is a great learning experience because there are other commanders out there with similar style to this that will suffer because of the same reasons this Chun-Li is suffering. She can still win games, she can definitely perform, she has things going for her, and if all the stars align, everything just becomes perfect, she can really have a great game. But I think she's below competitive in my opinion. But mostly because of the meta reason, mostly because all the cards people are currently playing are basically just great versus her on an auto basic. That's what I've learned. Hope you learned something out of this video. Take care guys, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and you wanna support me, feel free to share my videos or even checking out my Patreon page. Also, purchasing cards from the TCG Players website using the affiliate link in the description below of the video will also help the channel grow. So a big thank you to all of you.